So now that you have the hob bolt in and your precision bearings in the extruder head, we're going to put the last 3 flat washers on. Once again, we're going to have the smooth side going to our bearing. So I'll put all 3 of those on there. And we'll just go ahead and screw very carefully, screw the hob bolt in, because you don't want to push out the your lock nut that's in here. I love using power tools, so if you have power tools, more power to you. And I use that to tighten up and go through the locking portion of this nut. You'll see that there is quite a bit of flexation still there. What you don't want to do is you don't want to over tighten it, because you'll take and you'll actually pinch these two, actually pinch this one bearing towards the center here. So I've got it close. You can see a little bit of the screw is coming out. That's when I get my wrench and just very slowly, and I'll keep checking by wiggling back and forth. You want to get it to where it no longer wiggles back and forth. Everything seems to be tight and snug, but it has to be free rolling. And it won't free roll like this whenever I'm finished, because it does. You can see it's getting a little bit more pressure on it, but there's still a little wiggle in there. And this is another one of those things you just want to do a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, so you don't overdo it. Almost there. Okay, and if you see, there's no more wiggle to it. There might be a little flex to it, but there's no more wiggle to it. So now that we've done that, we're going to put our jam nut on the end. And I'm going to reach over here and grab some Loctite. Now I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite. Make sure that you don't get this actually on the extruded ABS portion. Over time it will degrade it. So it's just a little bit on the threads there. Put that on there. I back it up with my wrench. And I set my electric drill motor. I do it at 6. It doesn't have to be very tight, but I'm just holding the wrench on the head of the bolt so it doesn't snug this down any further. So now it's tight. And I want to double check to make sure that it wobbles just a little bit, and I have a little bit of adjustment that I can do. Once again, I'm going to go back. I'm going to hit it one more time with the electric drill motor. And there you go. Your slave gear has now been added to your extruder. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the tensioners to your extruders. So we start by the long bolts here. I do believe these are some M40 by 55 socket heads. And you'll put one flat washer on, 4mm, one spring, and another flat washer. And you'll build the second one the same way. Flat washer, spring, flat washer. So the screws are built there. Now what we have to do is we have to put the nuts into the top slots of the extruder itself. And once when you've done that, you can just screw the bolts right into it. You just have to be aware that the nuts will pivot inside, so be careful not to cross thread the screw into the nut. This one pivots a little bit more than this one, just by design. So what I do is I basically get it to where the screw is basically flush to the nut in the back. You can flip it up, flip your pivoting part up, and actually put these on there. And the further that you drive these in, the harder it is to actually get them to engage on the pivoting piece here. So there you've installed the tensioners to your extruder. Now what we're going to do is we're going to install the drive gear onto the motor. So you have the larger of the two M3 nuts. You also have a set screw. You have the ABS drive gear portion and your motor, and we use a little Loctite 425 on it. It's compatible with the ABS, so it won't break it down. So what I start out with is taking the nut and putting it on in the back slot of the drive gear. A little tricky. I'm going to grab my pair of needle nose here. And it slips right down inside there. Now I'll get my Allen wrench and put my set screw on it. And because it's going to go through the plastic first before it gets to the nut, I make sure I have a generous amount of this 425 on there. So when that's occurred, I'll just screw it in there, and when it gets through, it might get a little bit hard. Once again, you don't want to force it because you don't want to cross thread it. So now I've got the set screw and the nut for the drive gear. So now we're going to take the drive gear and put it on the motor. And before we do that, some of the drive gears are a little bit small on the bottom side here. So once again, I'll take my rotozip tool and I'll open up this hole just a little bit. You have to be gentle whenever you do it. And the other thing is you have to make sure that your set screw is backed out so you don't end up damaging your set screw. So here we go. So we'll take it and we'll slip it down onto the shaft, and you see it slips very easy, so it's large enough now. I'll tighten the set screw until it actually hits the shaft, and now I'm going to back it off so that way it's on the flat. The set screw is going to go, and I can lift this off on it. Very important on all of these motors that your set screws go on the flat that's on the motor shaft. That's where the set screw needs to be engaging the shaft, is on the flat. So this needs to be able to travel up and down. Doesn't have to travel up and down easily, but it just has to be able to travel up and down so we can integrate it to the extruder. So integrating it to the extruder, we'll go ahead, and if you look, there's the connector, the wiring harness connector. That is going to go up where the 3 holes are here. That is going to be the attachment holes to your motor. for the extruder. So you basically just lay it down there, and I always move my set screw facing out whenever I do this, because you'll have to adjust that later. So now we have some M3s that we're putting on here that actually hold the motor down, and we're using washers also. So you're going to put a washer on each one of these. I'm going to do a tool change here real quick. And so, once again, just to show you that it's not going to be straight up, but it's going to be in this position whenever you put everything together. And then we're going to take and put the motor onto the extruder. And at this point I'm just starting the screws. I'm not driving them all the way down. I also have the gear positioned where you can access through one of the slave gear holes for the last screw. So not only is that hole exposed, but my set screws out in front. So I've started all three of them, and you can see that it's wiggling on there. It's can be adjusted, and the herringbone pattern that's on the slave and the drive gear, you want the points of the two to line up in the same in the same plane there. So that's the reason why you need the set screw to be loose, and you need it to be just barely touching the shaft so it can float, but you don't want the drive gear to spin on the shaft, and then whenever you set the set screw, it'll be on the round part of the shaft. So it's basically set right there. All I'm doing is I'm pinching the motor in the back of the extruder. I have my using my electric drill motor here. I have it set on the lowest setting because you don't want to strip out these screws. And then you'll tighten up your set screw. Giving me a little trouble here. There we go. You want to put it pretty firm on there, but not too tight, because you'll end up deforming where the little nut and the set screw went. So whenever that's occurred, it's a little hard to spin the wheel right now, to spin the gear. But there's your assembled extruder. So now that you've assembled the extruder with the motor and everything here, one last thing that we like to do is we like to use some super lube on it. Super lube is compatible. It won't degrade the ABS. So I use a little acid brush and put just a little bit on there. You'll just kind of work it into the teeth. You don't want to have really any big globs in there. You want to make sure it's in the gear teeth. Then I'll spin it. Make sure I get all of it. So that's the first part right there. And then what I do is I'll take on the head portion of the hobbed bolt, I'll put my socket and my electric drill motor on, and I'll just basically break the motor in and the gears, actually the gears, not the motor, just by turning it. I'll turn it clockwise right now. Doesn't matter which way you start, just go one way and then the other, and it's just actually getting the grease onto the drive gear from the slave gear, and any high spots that might be on either one of the gears. It's just working those out. Okay, and when that's done, you can check afterwards. And if you saw before, it was a little harder to spin the slave gear, but whenever you've done that, like I say, the gears have meshed. Any of the high points on it have been basically worn off, and this is actually ready to be installed onto your bot.